What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to SoCal Exploring, your number one stop for all things theme park related. My name is Scott, and in today's video, we are going to be breaking down my top 5 Knott Scary Farm mazes of all time. I know you guys have been waiting for this to do it because I've never done my top 5 mazes at Knott Scary Farm, nor have I done my top 5 scares since the Knott Scary Farm. So don't worry, more videos on Knott Scary Farm will be coming out soon. I know I have big Horror Nights fans on here that also enjoy Knott Scary Farm, so we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But I've been going to Knott Scary Farm the same years I've been going to Halloween Horror Nights. In 2010 was my first year at Knott Scary Farm. So we're going to be breaking down my top 5 of all time that I enjoy. And I know some of you guys may have a different list, so let me know down in the comment section what your list is of your top 5 Knott Scary Farm mazes of all time are. With that being said, let's hop right into the video. But before that, make sure to check us out on social media at SoCal Exploring Media on Instagram and at SoCal Exploring on Twitter. Click that subscribe button right down there with those bell notifications on to see more videos like the one that you're watching. Check out our merchandise store where you can purchase some official SoCal Exploring merchandise, teespring.com/store/keep exploring, or click the link down in the description where you can get one of these shirts. This is the Horror Nights Unscripted collection that we have on there, but we also have tons of other collections on there, and we're also coming out with new collections that I have an illustrator working hard right now to get you some new designs on that merchandise shop, so I highly recommend checking that out by clicking the link in the description. We start off with number 5, which is none other than Slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse is a big Knott Scary Farm maze in Knott Scary Farm history, and the last time that we saw it was in 2013. Now this maze is also one of the longest running mazes at Knott Scary Farm, as it ran for 6 whole years. That's a long time for a maze to run at Knott Scary Farm. This maze was gruesome. It was gory. It was rednecks and hillbillies that were cannibals. It was absolutely phenomenal, though. And you'll notice in a lot of these maze trends that are on my list that a lot of them are very long experiences, and this was one of those ones. Slaughterhouse, I wish that we had some type of Slaughterhouse back. They tried it again with the Red Barn to kind of bring back that sound. Unfortunately, the Red Barn sucked, and that's just my personal opinion, but I would love to have another rendition of Slaughterhouse in some form or way, just pulled off very good. Maybe John Cook could do something with it, although I don't know if John Cook's returning to Knott Scary Farm this year, unfortunately. I just wish that we got some type of Slaughterhouse maze back at Knott Scary Farm. Slaughterhouse was gory, it was gruesome, it was absolutely phenomenal, and I know that a lot of you guys would put Slaughterhouse at your number 1 for top 5 Scary Farm mazes of all time. But it's my number 5. That's because there's tons of other mazes that we need to get to on this list. Number 4 goes to Uncle Bobo's, a Big Top of the Bazaar. I know that you guys haven't heard that name in a while. The last time that we saw this maze was in 2012, located in the former Shadowlands location right next to Accelerator. I mean, I love clowns, right? And this is one thing that I mentioned on here is I love clowns. And the fact that we have had a maze based on all things clowns and the storyline behind it, it was so much fun. It was creepy, and it actually felt very long. As some of you guys know, that location in specific, it seems like it's a small location, as we've seen with mazes in the past, like Black Magic, but this maze was actually fairly long. I think it took me like 8 minutes to walk through. Such a fun maze, so creepy. There was a clown around every single corner, and despite the facade being simple, it still stuck to the storyline. I mean, there was even like a small little animatronic clown right outside telling you dialogue from the maze and kind of playing into that storyline a little bit more. I really do miss this maze, and it's another one that I wish that we could have back in some form of way. Just another clown maze. I guess you could argue that Dark Ride has clowns in it, but it's not the same feel. You know, I want a maze just solely based on clowns. Once again, Uncle Bobo's is such a fun maze. So it was like a kind of comedical in a way too. You know, clowns are scary, but they can also be comedical, and that's what I liked about this maze. Uncle Bobo's, Big Top of the Bazaar. I truly do miss that maze a lot. Moving on into number 3, which is Forevermore, the maze based around Edgar Allan Poe. The last time that we saw this was in 2015, and hands down, Forevermore was a fan favorite out of like everybody who ever attended Scary Farm. This is one of my favorite maze locations of all time, which you can find us in the Mystery Lodge location. Last year was Special Ops Infected, and we're not getting Special Ops Infected back anymore, so I'm hoping we get a maze there. But this maze location is great. It's so big, so they can do so much with it, and that's exactly what they did with Forevermore. Like I've talked about in the past, I love when they do different maze styles like this, where they base it off like a musician, or they base it off of an author, as we've seen Edgar Allan Poe, because as we know, Edgar Allan Poe had a lot of dark kind of pieces that he wrote, and that's why it worked perfectly in this Forevermore maze, especially with the addition of the skeleton key room in later years. I mean, it was so long. In every room there was detail, and it was so tightly enclosed in these rooms. It made you feel super immersed in the maze. It was just one of those mazes that you felt actually creeped out in, and it was so tight in there, but the rooms were all super detailed, and they made such a lot of room with this maze. Like, there was tons of different scenes, not just like big rooms with big scenes. There's tons of different scenes that played into the Edgar Allan Poe theme. And if you went to the event during when Forevermore was there, you know that this was one of the most popular mazes with the longest wait times, and rightfully so, because it is one of the best mazes in Knott's Scare Farm history. Me and Losh have talked about this, about like Horror Nights and stuff, is we wish that they do something based on another author to make it kind of dark and twisted like that. Like we brought up Stephen King, even though Stephen King has written pieces that have turned into movies and TV shows, but we're hoping that we can see at least Knott's pick it up. Like I'd like to see Horror Nights pick it up too, but I also think that Knott's Scare Farm would do a great job at doing a Stephen King original maze. I think that they do a great job at it. So hopefully one day we'll see another author come to the event for Knott's Scare Farm and bring their pieces to life in a dark and twisted way like we saw with Forevermore. Number 2 goes to Doll Factory, which the last time we saw this was in 2011. Doll Factory, it was so creepy. Like, this maze was ridiculously creepy, and hands down one of the mazes that I have gotten scared in. Like because you guys know when I go to these haunt events, I don't really get scared in these mazes that too often because I'm so used to it now. But there's also that thrilling excitement of, you know, getting scared, right? This is one of those mazes I was genuinely freaked out in. Doll Factory is such a creepy experience. If you ever got to experience it, you guys know what I'm talking about. It was so creepy. They had like such weird things going on in there, and anything related to creepy dolls, in my opinion, will scare anybody. I mean, you guys have seen Annabelle before. It was a pretty scary movie. Doll Factory played into that perfect theme of creepy ass dolls. You know, it was just absolutely terrifying and creepy and twisted, and one maze that you definitely do not want to show your kids when they grow up. And like on YouTube, you don't want to show your kids this. I mean, you don't want to show your kids Not Scared From at all, unless they're sick and twisted like me, who was 11 years old going through a Doll Factory. But it was creepy. It was twisted. I loved it, though. I love mazes like this that are sick and twisted and are absolutely creepy, and that is why it's my second most favorite maze at Knott's Scare Farm of all time. But that brings us to my most favorite Knott's Scare Farm maze of all time, and I know this is going to surprise you guys a little bit, because as you guys have seen with this list, they're all mazes from the past. But this maze in specific was at the event this past year in 2019. And that goes to Origins, The Curse of Calico. And how could this not be my most favorite maze of all time? It tells a story in a way of Ghost Town and Sarah Marshall. And the storyline around this is just absolutely phenomenal. John Cook did such an amazing job, and this is the maze that fans needed. This is the absolute maze that fans needed to tie into Ghost Town and fits in with the area, and that's why I'm hoping 2020 this year in the Accelerator area we get something tying around to the boardwalk, you know, or maybe even we can get a maze in the Fiesta area that ties into the Fiesta area a little bit. I think that would be really neat to kind of theme the mazes around the areas that they're located in, and Origins being in the former location of the Red Barn in Ghost Town area. It was themed perfectly. It fit in perfectly, and this was one of the most highly rated mazes at Knott's Scare Farm last year. I mean, there's stuff going on in the outside. We saw little Easter eggs to the hanging. We saw different special effects in there. And it was such a long, like, if you guys know, and you guys are familiar with Knott's Scare Farm maze locations, you know that that location specific is a very small space. You know, they host events like Christmas time and Knott's in there and stuff like that. It's a very small space. But for whatever reason, this maze felt like it was extremely long, and it was extremely long. So they did such a great job at not only bringing huge sets into this location, but making you feel like it's never going to end and making you feel creeped out by that fact. Origins, The Curse of Calico, hands down, is my most favorite Knott's Scare Farm maze of all time. And it was really hard to put it over some of these mazes on this list, but the more I think about it and the more I think about how happy I was walking through it last year, it has to be my most favorite maze at Knott's Scare Farm of all time. But that's my list of top 5 Knott's Scare Farm mazes of all time. I want to know your list down in the comments section. I want to know what you think about my list. Do you agree with it? Would you switch some around? Just let me know all that stuff in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you're new here with those bell notifications on. Check us out on social media at SoCal Exploring Media on Instagram and at SoCal Exploring on Twitter. My name is Scott. You've been watching SoCal Exploring. Positivity is key, and most importantly, remember to keep exploring. Peace.